So I'm gonna just record this because it's such a crazy story, and I feel like I need to record it. So we were in Thailand. We're in Thailand right now, and we got to meet with these guys on the street, doing street ministry, blah blah, all that stuff. So the missionary Pierce basically sees these guys on the street corner, and they're just talking to other people, all that stuff. We've been kind of doing street ministry all day, talking to people, engaging people, praying with people, different stuff. So I got to just hang out with people in the street, and so these two guys there, and one of the guys on the team went up to them and he was just making conversation, blah blah, all that stuff. So our missionary, he looks at us, he's like, hey, let's go talk to these people. So we walk over, and Pierce is engaging with some people, and we see the two guys. That one guy, he has his eye, he had an eye. No, one of the three guys has an eye issue. He starts talking about him, is he okay? How about that? Can we pray for you? All that stuff. So there's some resistance. They don't care for it. I don't want to do all that. So we're like, okay. And so I look at one of the other guys. He has this tattoo, and it's the Sak Yant tattoo. Sak Yant is this traditional Buddhist Thailand tattooing practice where essentially you are asking spirits to bless you as you get it. It's this very specific thing that happens. So I look at him and I'm like, I look at his tattoo and I'm like, oh, it's a cool tattoo, tell me about it. And then while he's standing there, he's talking about it. The other guy looks at him and looks at us and he goes, oh, I gave him that tattoo. And I was like, oh, usually nobody can give you that, not anyone can give you that tattoo. It needs to be specifically given by somebody who's a Buddhist monk or whatever. And the word they use, Ajahn, which is a leader, a leader of the group, or a spiritual leader. Actually, the pastors are also called Ajahns, which is fascinating. So he's a spiritual leader of that area, or essentially of them actually. So he's like, well, I gave him the tattoo, and Pierce is like, oh, and then he's like, oh, I gave him that tattoo in his house that we're standing at. So I was like, what do you mean? So it's this weird moment, and he's like, yeah, I gave it in there, and essentially it's a tattoo store. It's a tattoo shop where they give these things away. So Pierce was explaining that usually people who give tattoos, these type of tattoos, have to be only spiritual leaders, and they're usually generationally passed down, and not just, you don't just get to pick to be a thing. You're passed down from your generation before you, your father, grandfather, whatever. So this guy basically got picked to do this, and he's been he essentially chose to be yeah, I'm going to be this is my generation before, so I'm also going to run it. So his dad was the other guy who did this tattoo, essentially, who was using this tattoo thing. So we're talking to the guy who's the Ajahn, and as we're talking to him, they bring out this mask, and this mask has this you see these iconographic stuff on it. It's just there's some symbols on it, blah blah blah, all that, and it's you can clearly see something's really weird about the mask. And he's holding it out, and he's showing us, and he has a cloth that goes with it. And the guy is showing me and Pierce as we're talking to them, and he's essentially what they do is after they give the tattoo, they take this mask and they put it on your head, and he essentially blesses you, or he can actually wear it himself, and he manifests spirits while he's doing it. So that was the interesting part, the manifesting the spirit part. Pierce looks at him and goes, do you do black magic or white magic, or good magic in a sense? And I was like, what? I looked over at Pierce, I'm like, what do you mean? So I didn't know that part. That's new for me. I didn't understand it. So essentially it was white magic. So he does these blessing full magic where he doesn't do that black magic stuff. Essentially white magic here in this concept is essentially you have to do certain things to get this blessing good or bad or whatever. And then the black magic is more you get it and you're blessed, and it's faster. But again, I don't know, that's apparently it's different gods or different deities that are based around it. So I was like, oh, that's weird. So we started talking to them, and as the guy comes out, he's holding this mask in his hand, he's showing it to us, and in my heart check, I'm like, I'm not touching that thing. No, we're not touching that thing. So Pierce looks at me, and he's like, these guys are demon possessed, and you can see it in the guy's face, the Ajahn we're talking to. His eyes keep blinking, like he's just like blinking and blinking, and he's like just twitchy, and he's just like showing this, and he's like, touch it, touch it. I'm like, I ain't touching that thing. Pierce is like, we're not touching that thing, and he's like, just pushing me away. I'm like, oh, don't worry, I got it. So we're sitting there like just looking at this thing, and then while we're doing that, in the background, his grandmother is talking to the rest of it, my team, I mean, and they're like praying with them, talking to them. Apparently, the grandmother is accepting Christ during this time. So we're hearing about this demonic possession thing that they do as like a tattoo ritual, and the back, and the grandma is like talking about giving her life to Christ. Insane moment. So we're like talking through this. We keep going back and forth. We just keep asking questions. Pierce looks at me. He's like, we're just doing this to stall. I'm like, I can stall. I can ask questions for days anyway, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, let's do it. So I'm asking questions about what does this magic do? Where does it go? All that stuff. Like, how do you do it? Like, where does this come from? Like, one of the things they do is that they don't pick. Like, so the person who's getting the tattoo, they don't pick what the tattoo is. The guy who's giving it, the Ajahn, he gives the tattoo. He tells them what they want or what they should get, all that. So he picks the design, he picks the icons, he picks like whatever god or whatever. Essentially, he is the spiritual like guide to you. Like, he picks what you should do. So, which is so fascinating. So there's this moment, his friend who was sitting there, he is like, I look at him and I'm like, I'm asking him about his tattoos now. And while he's doing that, he's just like showing me different things, and Ajahn is answering for him. Again, there's the sense of like, again, it's the best way I could say is like a shepherd protecting his flock, but in the more demonic realm of like, it's someone who is wanting to control them rather than like protecting them. They're controlling them, what they say and what they do. So it's a very weird concept. So while he was doing that, I'm sitting there like, okay, like what does this mean? So like Pierce is, he was watching the people in the back, and we felt like it was like getting to the end. So I look at Pierce, I'm like, I want a picture of him. He's like, yeah, let's do it. So I asked the guy. So I asked not the Ajahn, the other guy. I look at him, and while the Ajahn is going inside to get his something, I'm talking to the other guy. I'm like, hey, can I get a picture of your tattoos? Like, specifically, I like this. I want to see it. And he's like, yeah, sure. And then as soon as he said sure, the Ajahn comes in, and he looks at Pierce, or one of our translators, and he goes, I have to ask him, the Ajahn. I was like, why do you have to ask the other guy about your tattoo? Such a, like, essentially, like, he needs that level of, like, control. That's what, so Pierce looks at me, and he goes, like, it's a control thing. They want to control what is being shown and what not being shown. Fascinating. So he looks at me, and he goes, he also wants to be in the picture. I'm like, wow, why does that matter? But like, no, he wants to show. It's essentially like, he's like, he'll pose for you and all that. I'm like, sure, why not? So the guy comes back in, and now both of them pose, and the other guy who had the eye problem also came out and posed. They showed us their tattoos. They were like showing us the different stuff. Dude, it was such a nuts moment. I was just sitting there like, I don't even know how to like feel about this. Like, there's like, you can feel it. There's something off in that moment. You can feel that. Like, there's a presence there. There's like something dark there. I looked into the tattoo shop. There's just like these icon after icon, these statues and like pictures and like just like different letters and all that. And to think that a store like this is passed down generationally. Pierce asked a question about like, oh, do you get to choose to be a part of this? And the guy's like, yes, I get to choose to be a part of this. When it comes to like generational passing down, he's like, I can say no to it if I want, but essentially he's like, I want to do what my father did. So it's a generational passing down of demons, which is nuts. Generational passing down demonic forces, ideas, thoughts, practices, essentially just, and then generational spiritual leaders being passed down. I don't know, man. It was so just fascinating, dark, and just crazy. It's this like, it's a deifying, like, it's not deifying. It's more like they are giving these markings on your body, essentially power over you as a person. You know, we are not to worship the creation, which is even more fascinating, is that we are worshiping the marks on a creation, which is even more complicated in this feeling of thought. But yeah, no, it was such a crazy moment. Like, I was watching this, and I was telling one of the girls at the end of the team, I was like, hey, can you start praying? And I'm like, I'm feeling the heaviness of what's happening in this room. I mean, this area. But it's like you can see the control, and the grandma giving her like saying what she wanted to give her life to Christ in that moment. It was also like such a real thing. We don't know what God was doing there, but it was enough for her to be like, I want to believe Jesus is real in this. So yeah, crazy. All right, that's all. Bye.